story for you from
Okay, I would
I have
love
a
to hear your
story for you from
story.
what happened this weekend.
Okay.
So I started walking with a friend.
Uh-huh.
So we have gone walking. We started last Sunday, and I have
Okay.
gone walking with her every day except for one day this past week.
Wow. That's
Yes,
fantastic. Good for you.
thank you. So yesterday, on my way to go meet her, because we go to different places all the time,
Uh-huh.
I was talking to my mother because my mother, and there was an alarm going off in the background, like it just like a constant beeping thing.
Right.
And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm changing the batteries in the carbon monoxide detector. I think I broke it because it was going off. And so I changed the batteries and it's still going off." And I was like, "Okay, see what that means is what that means is you have a carbon monoxide leak." And she's like, "I don't think so because the levels are really low on the alarm. Like apparently it shows the
Oh,
levels."
okay. Yeah.
I was like, "No, no, that's not what that means. You didn't break it. I need you to." And I was like, "All right, you know what? We'll let her go with that." Because it was super fucking early in the morning on a Sunday. And
Uh-huh.
so then I told Sonoman about it, and she was like, "Oh no, nope, nope. She needs to get on that right now." So we stopped on the path. I called my uncle and I said, "This is going on." And he said, "I know. I've known about it for like 2 days now." And I
Two
said,
days.
"Right, right." That's what I'm saying. And then he kept interrupting me, like, I know, and I'm on it." And I said, "Well, she changed the batteries and it's still going off with the new batteries in it." He was like, "Oh, I didn't know that part. I'll call Mike and we'll get on this."
Right.
Great. So I didn't hear anything from anybody. And then a little while later, Pete calls me and he says, "I don't have a lot of time. Mike and I are on our way out there." And we also called the power company, and the power company said that they can't do anything because she has a propane tank. And so we called the propane company, and they said that they'll go out there, but they won't go in the house until they get clearance from the fire
Fire
department.
department. Yeah.
And so she needs to call 911. And I was like, "Oh, so, yep. So then I came home and I called my mom, and she was like, "Yeah, the firemen are here." I was like, "Mhm." So the funny part is, it's a
I was
small
gonna say
town,
end.
right? So the funny part is it's a small town, right? So it's
Okay.
actually my neighbor's cousin is the fire chief for that area.
Of
And
course. Who else would it be in a small town, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
Well, my cousin is the fire chief for another small
Another
town.
town. The next town
Right.
over. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's
Right.
actually 3 towns over, or else I would have just
Okay.
called him and said go.
Right.
But yeah, so the fire chief came, and Jody
Uh-huh.
was actually down there, my mom's neighbor, because I talked
Right.
to my mom, and then I called Jody, and my mom didn't tell me that Jody was there. So Jody's like, "Yeah, I'm actually here at your mom's right now." I'm just like,
I'm holding the ladder for her.
right, right. So there is a problem.
Mhm. Oh,
And
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Uh-huh.
the levels are low on the main floor of the house, but in the basement it was it was like off the charts.
Wow.
And
That's
there's
scary.
actually
Yeah.
there's like a clog in the um in the furnace.
Uh-huh.
George, there's a clog in the furnace, and so
That's what's
that's
causing it.
that's what's causing it. But I was like, "Why you gotta fucking sleep on this? This is not what we do." And at first I was like, "Okay, fuck it, she's moving now." And then I thought, you know what? This would still happen if my dad was alive. Like
Right.
they
Yeah.
still would need to go through all of these steps.
Sure. Yeah.
And given his mental state post first stroke, he would probably say the same thing as my mother is, "Oh, this thing
Right.
must be broken. Let's just take the batteries out."
Right. So do we get her a canary?
I'll ask. That's actually a good question. I'll
Yeah.
ask. Yeah.
I mean, if she's going to stay there, until it gets fixed and that kind of thing.
Oh, they're coming out tomorrow. Like
Oh, okay.
yesterday, and
Got
then
it.
they're coming out tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
So, but it's, I mean, it's gotten cold here. I don't know if it's colder there now or not.
It was a high of 58 yesterday.
Okay.
And Jody said that she can come and stay with them. My cousin
good.
Shannon and her
Yeah.
wife said that she could come and stay with them.
Right.
And, she's fine. She sleeps with the windows open all the time.
Okay.
And they cut the furnace completely off.
Oh, okay,
So
good. So it's not like it can kick in accidentally or anything. Okay, great.
No.
Good.
No,
Yeah.
so it's turned completely off.
Okay.
And so they use the propane for the furnace and the stove. So she
Mhm.
can still use the stove because it's just the
Okay,
furnace.
good. So they just took the furnace out of line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So that was my yesterday. Go ahead, Janice.
No, this is great. I love that you guys did that story. So I want to ask you a few things. This is all very technical. Jen, do you like leaning in like that? It looks like you have to talk into your mic.
I think part of it is not being used to talking into a mic.
Yeah. So either move your mic further to you so you can relax. Like, how do you normally, when you're in a meeting, how do you normally relax? How do you sit?
Actually, usually when I'm on the phone, I end up sitting like this.
Okay.
But I have my headset on, so it doesn't.
Okay.
I don't know.
So this is a natural position for you.
Unfortunately, yes.
No, I just want to know.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No. Okay, yeah. Perfect. So if you feel comfortable doing that, I just felt like that's not, to me, comfortable. But if you're comfortable doing that, then keep at it.
Yeah.
And then, Michelin, your mic, for whatever reason, like, was background. There was background noise. So I think, can you lower your the height? It's already short as it is.
I can do this. Does this help?
Okay. Yeah, I think that'll help you because what happens is you speak right at it and it doesn't matter. Okay, so that might be helpful. The other thing too, yes.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt your flow. Go ahead.
Oh, tell me what.
So I need advice because again, I haven't done this. I do have a tendency to shift and squirm. As I think about like my normal, like during conversations.
Yeah.
I do have a tendency to squirm.
It's okay.
So I guess, do you have any recommendation aside from not squirming? Because I don't know if we can really do that. Do you have any recommendations in terms of like, squirm, but don't, turn my head around or, what I mean? Like any recommendations on how to not affect the sound by squirming?
Okay, go ahead. What, Michelin, do you want to answer her question?
I would like to address this.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
I would say go ahead and squirm. Just be conscious of when you're speaking, to speak into the microphone and not be whipping around.
I see what you're saying. So squirm when it's not my turn.
Yeah.
Okay. That's absolutely reasonable. So basically find a space that, or a position that works, because this works just fine too. And I appreciate that you're probably, sit up when I
go back to the Miss Manor school.
Yeah, not hunch kind of thing.
When you say squirm, what do you mean? You mean like you put your arms around and you make these kinds of noises like that?
Pretty much, yep.
Okay.
And like every so often, like if I have my legs crossed, I'll shift and cross them the other way, that kind of stuff. Like, I end up doing this a lot.
We can't hear it.
Yeah, and we're not going to be on camera.
Right. But it doesn't impact like and Shannon, she brought up a good point I didn't even think of is, can you hear me can you hear my movement?
No.
The other piece I was thinking of was during the course of the conversation, I'm wondering if I would, if I do something like that, how does it impact the sound?
Yeah, so here's the other recommendation that I was going to say, because I wanted to know the level of squirminess.
Yeah.
So I would put like a blanket or a towel underneath your computer or where you're at, like where you rest your arms. That'll like take some of the sound. And then do you have a like a mat under your chair?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but it's a plastic rolly one so that it doesn't get stuck in the carpet.
Right. Okay. You know what? Let's try it, because
Okay.
the last thing I want you to do is this, to stay completely still
Right.
and like be so conscientious of what's happening that you lose your vibe. You lose
Sure.
your, like, I
Yeah.
don't want that. I'd rather edit out squirmy stuff
Okay.
than for you to be rigid.
Right.
So let's just try the first one, and if we need improvement, we'll work it
Okay.
out. What I
Yeah.
am noticing though is that, like, you guys, well, Jen, sometimes you talk over, which is fine. But if it gets to a point where it's like it becomes a problem, then we'll have to come up with a solution. And one of the things is you mute if you're not talking, because then that already takes care of it.
Okay. Yep.
But I also like the natural flow of conversation between the two of you, and I don't want to take that away. So the first one, this is all for that. We're gonna look at how this goes. So just be as natural as possible to both of you.
Yeah, because and it's funny too, because I probably would not have like she's so cute. I probably would not have. I wanted to acknowledge what she was saying, kind of thing. And it's that whole, and I absolutely agree with you, Janice. I'm like, how do I not talk over?
It's active listener skills.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's that. I mean, I know you can see that I'm listening to you. But how does that translate, or what does good listening skills, active listening skills sound like on a podcast kind of thing?
Right.
So that's just I think it comes down to practice, and like I appreciate the mute note kind of thing. So okay, that's helpful.
Okay, the other thing is, you guys, I think you guys answered the question. I was gonna say, would it be more comfortable if you didn't see each other, if you weren't on camera? Because sometimes, okay, we got your answer. Let me finish. Sometimes, when you're on camera, you're looking at yourself. You're seeing how you're acting if you're talking, and it takes away from. Sometimes it distracts people. So that would have been another suggestion. But Michelin, are you saying you like to see Jen? And how about you, Jen?
I'm really, I actually, I don't know if I really have a preference. Although I think I would prefer, as I really kind of think it through, for conversations, I think it's good to be able to see you as well, Michelin, because then I kind of, and again, that talking over, it'll help with that, so that I know that she's done, kind of thing, and vice versa. And I'm sure we'll get into that, as we get more comfortable with the banter type of thing. It'll be obvious to each of us as to kind of what our nonverbal cues are in terms of your turn.
Exactly. And that's why, like, since the dawn age of Zoom, like for COVID, I've had to come up with some of those like cues. So that's why, like, I nod my head a lot, because then I'm not saying anything, right? But I'm like acknowledging, and I do this a lot, which looks silly, but like I don't have to say anything if I'm doing this. You know what this means.
Right, but you know what that means. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So you two can come up with your own as I think you know each other well enough too. Okay, so let's we have 10 minutes. Can you guys stay for 10 minutes or?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So here's the podcast outline. I'm going to bring it up. And what I want you, actually, no, I'm not going to bring it up. Let's do this exercise now, because you're going to have to do it in the podcast, but I want you to get comfortable. So what I want you to do is I want you to ad lib, nothing, there's no prompting. I want you to introduce each other, and I want it to be like very genuine, but also like, this is this person. I love this person, otherwise I wouldn't have a podcast with them, right? And this is what I think is so great about them. And this is why they're super qualified to be on this podcast. So I want those 3 points, right? I want the person's name, maybe their title, and then why you love them. What do you think their greatest like asset is, or what do you love about their personality? And then why are they qualified to be on this podcast? So without drafting a response, I want you to just naturally say it, and this is going to help you like do things ad hoc. Okay, take a few minutes and let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I just wrote down I appreciate not having anything drafted, and I did write down the 3 things that you wanted like kind of included. Okay. And how much time should it be?
It should be like 3 sentences max. Like each thing should have a sentence.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is like a marketing thing because you're actually telling your listener, like, this is why you should listen to us.
Right. Okay.
All right, Jen, you go first.
Okay. So this is Michelin Bradley. She's the CEO and president of Metis Consulting Services. I love Michelin both as a colleague and a person, primarily because she's one of the most authentic, smartest people I know. Why we work really well together and why I really appreciate who she is, again, on the colleague part of things, is that she's been in the trenches and she's seen how things go wrong. And it's been my experience that when people see things go wrong, they know how to avoid that later. So all of that kind of culminates for me in her being one of the best consultants to solve the issues at hand, whatever they may be. So that's my intro.
Excellent. Good job. Your voice, the clarity. Excellent. Okay, Michelin, when you're ready.
Okay, so this is Jen DeMarco. She is Vice President of Consulting at Metis Consulting Services. I knew when I first met Jen, when I was performing a mock inspection, and she was one of the primary contacts, I knew that we would work together. I recognized that what we now refer to as the Vulcan mind meld had already happened, and that she is extraordinarily polished and professional and knows all of the pieces and parts off the top of her head without hesitation. And she has an amazing sense of humor. She is by far the best decision that I have made to date as far as who I wanted to work with at Metis.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything? Because I didn't write anything down.
No, that's good. That's really good. You might not want to say the last part because your other employees might be sad.
Okay, it's not meant to make everybody else sad, but like Jen really is Like
We
Jen
know
is-
that. We know that. But
Jen is
okay.
the driver. You know what I mean? Like
She is. Like, we wouldn't have, I know she makes the money. Like, I totally get it. But here's the other thing. What you're saying is very subjective. So what I need from you, yeah. And yes, Jen does know, like, from the top of her head all the answers. But we need something more subjective for our customers to know that Jen is qualified, not just that her CEO thinks she's the shit, because she is, but we have to actually give them. So you can work on that. But nice job, ladies. Very good, very good. And your pauses, I love your pauses because I can edit that out. But
Okay.
if you were the type of person who was like, like, that would be harder for me. But so I love the pauses and take them when you need it. Okay, so I recommend you to work on your intros because that's going to be key to the podcast. And then next session, I would like you to if you have time, I know you're both very busy, but like just sit with your mic and record stuff and do like ha 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 and oh, 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 like just record and get used to being with your mic and sitting there and your voice. And yeah, that's what I recommend.
I'm gonna be recording the grocery list. And
I love it.
So for the for when we do the actual podcast and like the structure of it, that kind of thing, I know that Michelle and we were talking, you know, we talked about our intros and we kind of like wrote some stuff, like we did our little working session last week.
Good.
So Janice, for the actual podcast itself, do you want us to introduce each other
Yes.
during the okay?
Because it's
Great.
always better if someone introduces you than you introducing yourself.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
And once you have your intro down, I will use it for every episode. So you don't have to keep doing it. We just need to get it down.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm kind of my wheels are my wheels are going.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Good.
In terms of the like, do we need to practice like kind of like our syncing up? You know, where you like, this is Michelin, this is Jen, and we are the queens of quality. Like, like
If you want.
like, do we need to like sync that up at all, or just?
so
It would be great.
Janice actually has someone who's gonna do an intro thing for us.
Oh, fantastic!
So that's
Oh,
gonna
good.
play at the beginning, and so because I think that I would suck at that sync up. I love the idea of doing that, and I think that I would suck at that, and I would come across as incredibly disingenuous.
Right.
It just, yeah. That is my fear on that.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
no, I wasn't sure because I mean, I love the idea of introducing each other because I never even thought of that, Janice. Like how you were saying, like, you know, it's better if somebody else introduces you. But that's where it was just kind of like, so how, like, getting excited and just trying to understand how it all kind of like, like how it all comes together, kind of thing. So okay.
Yeah, next week we'll actually do a based on this podcast outline, we'll do a test run, and that it's not like that. It's not the first episode. So basically, what will happen is can I share my screen? Okay, I can't. So what I'll do is I'll say,
and then you can share your screen.
Okay, that's true. You've done this before, I see.